yourself and introduce yourself, please?
Yeah, hello. I'm Jay Chipperfield from Margate, and I've been a member for just about a year, and I was a friend of Margate for 4 years before that, before taking the big plunge. Thank you.
Thank you. Pleased to see you.
Thank you.
Ah, yes, Frank. Frank, would you like to introduce yourself, please? Unmute and introduce.
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Frank Abelman, London Centenary. Nice to be here today.
Thank you, Frank.
Nice to see you.
Douglas Wagland, is he a first-time visitor? He's just waved.
Well, I came last year, and it was a delight to visit the #1 club, and the passage of time has meant that I'm #1 in the Margate Club, and hoping to carry on for a lot longer to see our 100th anniversary occasion. And very nice to be here today. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Okay. So welcome to all our visitors. David Wolfe is on the line. We will welcome him specially later on. I'd like now just to celebrate the birthdays of 2 members. Margaret Gries-Brisson, whose birthday is on the 9th, and Lord Raj Lumba, whose birthday is on the 13th of the month. If either of them are present, I would like to digitally present them with a club pen.
Unfortunately, they're not with us today, President David.
Right, so I now like to move on to the business of the day, which is our Stanley Leverton celebration. And I'd like to start by, actually I'll start with a toast to the Queen. If I could ask people to charge their vessels, glasses, whatever. And this is one of our 2 traditional toasts. We give a toast to Her Majesty the Queen.
Queen.
If you stand up to give the toast, I'm afraid we can't see the glass. Thank you. Right. I'd like now to call on my Vice President, Ian Balcombe, to say a few words about our late member, Stanley Leverton. Ian.
Thank you, Mr. President. We are, of course, very proud that Stanley Leverton was a member of this club from 1914 until his death in 1963. He also served as president of RIBI in 1952 to 1953 and director of Rotary International from 1957 to 1958, becoming second vice president of Rotary International from 1959 to 1960. Mr. President, I'm not entirely sure that members would be in a hurry to use his services because, of course, he was director of the very well-known funeral directors Leverton and Sons, which has been in existence since the late 1789, I believe, and is still in existence today and still under family ownership. Stanley Leverton plugged away for about 10 years to get the Rotary Constitution changed so that this club could permit new clubs to be formed within its territory. It was finally adopted and brought about the establishment of many new clubs in the central London area. It also allowed us as a club to retain membership rights over the whole territory of what is now Greater London. I believe that this system also worked in Birmingham, and as we've heard from Margate, they also adopted the system down there to get more clubs in the area. So, Mr. President, I hope that will be of interest to members. And as I say, we're very proud that Stanley Leverton, who we're celebrating today, and who is also celebrated in Birmingham once a year, was a member of this club.
Thank you very much indeed, Vice President Ian. I now would like to call on our Senior Past President, Anthony Newton, to actually introduce our speaker. Anthony.
Thank you very much, President David. I'm just wondering whether I have the privilege of introducing the speaker because I'm the oldest member of Senior Past President, just in case people might have thought I knew Stanley Leverton. I didn't, but that's my own thing. Yeah. It's significant, isn't it, that we have the honour and the privilege of the RIBI president coming at this time when we're very concerned with the act of remember. And this is a good time, therefore, to think of Rotary, how it was formed, when it was formed, why it was formed, and RIBI's position in it. I applaud the RIB president for three massive achievements, it seems to me. First of all, he's a solicitor, magnificent profession that is. Secondly, he lives in that beautiful constable country. How wonderful that constable country is. And thirdly, that he and his wife are both members of the same Rotary Club. That takes a lot of courage and bravery, it seems to me, both at home and out there. What we're going to hear, I hope, is an example of how leadership works and what the essence of leadership is, because the gentleman in this significant role has to show us leadership in all its best aspects. So with those few words, I have pleasure in introducing today's speaker. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the invitation to this special meeting. You'll appreciate that it's been a rather strange year. A few months ago, I had a full calendar of events. And of the events in that calendar, this is only the second, which is going ahead. And of course, it's going ahead virtually, as did the first that I was able to attend. I'd like today, this afternoon, to share some thoughts about Rotary today and tomorrow. My comments are about Rotary generally within Great Britain and Ireland, and therefore you may or may not think that they are totally relevant or partly relevant to your individual clubs, but they are certainly relevant to Rotary in Great Britain and Ireland as a whole. And I think that they are particularly appropriate for a meeting called in the memory of Stanley Leverton. I want to start by inviting you to ask yourselves a question. I want you to think about why you became a Rotarian. Now, I don't want you to tell me, but I just want you to think about why you became a Rotarian. I'll tell you why I became a Rotarian. Two principal reasons. First, I wanted to do something worthwhile for those less fortunate, to give something back, as they say. Second, it was a way of expanding my circle of acquaintanceships. I joined in Selkirk in the Scottish borders. And when I joined, we'd lived in the borders for just over a year. And joining Rotary was a way to get to know people other than the people I worked with. So my principal reasons for joining were grounded in service and fellowship. Why am I still in Rotary 36 years after I joined? Has anything changed? Well, I still want to do some good. Service is still there. I have friends in my current club, some of whom I've known now for nearly 30 years. So the fellowship is still there. But what has changed, what has been added, is that I've grown to realize that there is so much more to Rotary. When I joined the District 1080 team 16 years ago, I made a new circle of friends, and I saw another deeper side of Rotary. And since then, the familiar statistic that Rotary comprises 1.2 million members in about 200 countries worldwide has become real. It has become personal. Through Rotary, I have friends and acquaintances in nearly every part of the world. And moreover, I know that wherever I go, there are friends I just haven't met yet. People who share with me Rotary's ethos, its values. That's the wider world of fellowship. Moreover, when I, many years ago, went on a solo volunteering trip to the former Transkei in the then newly post-apartheid South Africa, I knew that just over the border in KwaZulu-Natal, there was a Rotary Club. So I had a support network, if you like, if anything went wrong. Another aspect of fellowship. And there's a wider world of service. I think we all start thinking about how we can help in our local communities. And I think that's vastly important. I think it's at the heart of a Rotary Club. It's at the heart of Rotary's place in a community. But Rotary offers so much more. The chance to make a difference, not just locally, but nationally and internationally. Let me give you one little example. Way back in the days of Brezhnev, Deirdre and I had a holiday in the old Soviet Union. And seeing the sights of Moscow, Leningrad, as it was then, and the Black Sea was interesting and enjoyable. But I always had the feeling of control, of oppression. A British Prime Minister once described the then Czechoslovakia as a faraway country of which we know nothing. But the old Soviet Empire was on our doorstep. The countries of Eastern Europe are just that, European countries. And so when the walls came down, I wanted to do something to help those fellow Europeans as they emerged from the twilight of the immediate post-war decades. And so, a few years ago, my club sponsored a vocational training team of Romanian paediatricians on a visit to hospitals in Ipswich and Norwich. Now, you may have heard people talk about their Rotary moment. I don't know if I've had a Rotary moment, but if I have, it came when the senior Romanian paediatrician said at our district conference, with what she had learned about how children's medicine is practiced in the UK, she said, "This visit has changed my life." That's the power of Rotary. And last year, with the help of a number of other clubs in District 1080, my club's modest contribution of funds bought $40,000 worth of much needed modern equipment for those doctors' hospitals in Romania, thanks to a Rotary Foundation global grant. It's just one example of what Rotary can do. But what's the point of that? We've all got similar stories about our Rotary life. My Rotary history is nothing special. The point is, Rotary is a gift. Past RI President Ravi Ravindran chose as his theme, "Be a gift to the world." And Rotary is a gift to the world. But it's also a gift to us, to Rotarians. We gain so much by way of fun, fellowship, satisfaction, personal growth from being part of this organization. So why are our numbers declining? Why are we failing so badly to bring in new, younger members that our average age continues to rise? Why do people spurn the gift of Rotary? And why generally, perhaps not on this call, but why generally are we so unrepresentative of the communities we serve? 30 years after we welcomed women into Rotary, only about 17% of the Rotarians in Britain and Ireland are women. And in our most recent demographic survey, 96% of our members describe themselves as white British or white Irish. Now, I have no problem with white British males over the age of 70. I am one. But if that is what the overwhelming majority of our membership looks like, we are in trouble. So why? Is it that the model is broken? Has Rotary ceased to be relevant as we approach the end of the first quarter of the 21st century? I think the answer is no and yes. No, Rotary is not irrelevant to a world where there is still hunger, where there is still illiteracy, where communities lack ready access to the basic necessities of life, where there is disease but poor access to modern medicine. An organization which has the ambition, reach, and capacity to say, "We will eradicate polio," and which can mobilize the World Health Organization, national governments, and others in that aim is not irrelevant. And in terms of the opportunities it offers, Rotary can still be as much a gift to today's younger people as it was and is to me. But if Rotary remains relevant to today's world, is the way Rotary works still relevant? I believe that today's 30-year-olds and 40-year-olds are as motivated to serve society as any generation. And the explosion of social media demonstrates just how much younger generations wish to stay connected. But you do not need to join a club and pay dues to do service in your community. You do not need to join a club and pay dues to be connected. So why join Rotary? The answer is Rotary has so much more to offer. It opens to members the opportunity to serve not just locally, but nationally and internationally. It opens to members the opportunity of being part of a truly global family. And what's more, a family which espouses high ethical standards in our business and personal lives. It opens to members the opportunity to harness the power and reach of the Rotary Foundation so as massively to increase the impact of our service, at home as well as overseas. It opens to members the opportunity of being part of a worldwide group of people committed to world understanding, peace, and conflict resolution. Surveys of younger people indicate that they are as keen to give something back to society as any other generation. What's more, that they welcome mentoring, and significantly that they want to be part of something big and have a global rather than a purely local perspective. Doesn't Rotary tick all those boxes? But too often, someone who might be attracted to these opportunities faces the expectation that they will attend a club meeting nearly every week with the time commitment that involves. The expectation that at those weekly meetings, they will have a meal, perhaps a drink, with the cost commitment that involves. Sadly, when they meet the club they're being asked to consider joining, they too often find themselves in the midst of a group of mainly men of their fathers or even their grandfathers' generation. Too often it's a club with declining numbers, struggling to find people willing to take office, struggling to do meaningful service. When they make the club they are being asked to join, too often they find it old-fashioned. I vividly remember the comments of a member of my club's satellite club who described the way that Woodbridge Deben conducts our meetings as quaint. And from his perspective, from a younger perspective, that's what they were, quaint. And that's why I started this talk with a question about why you joined Rotary. Because we need to think about what Rotary is really about and recognize that the rest is just habit, practice, tradition, familiar, but inessential. The plain fact is that the traditional Rotary model of a weekly lunch or an evening meeting with a meal and a speaker is grounded in the way people networked and socialized in 1905. Now, there are plenty of Rotarians to whom the traditional Rotary model has become a way of life and they're happy with it. I'm one of them. But I think that the traditional model is pretty well broken when we look to the future of the organization. People today network and socialize in a totally different way. Too often we're trying to squeeze potential new younger members into our traditional model rather than creating a Rotary which reflects how they want to live their lives, how they want to enjoy their Rotary, a Rotary in their image. So what do we need to do about it? I think we need to look at our club and ask ourselves, do we represent the future of Rotary in our community? Now, don't get me wrong. I am not saying that everything about today's Rotary is wrong, outmoded, outdated, and should be scrapped. But what I am saying is that if we want Rotary to be thriving in the second quarter of the 21st century, and we're nearly there, we need to think about what really matters. What is the essence of Rotary? Hold on to that and build on that. And we need to be brave enough to stimulate, encourage, and foster new models of Rotary, responsive to the lifestyles of the people we want to attract, rather than, as I've said, trying to fit new people into old models. And let's think about our service. It's hands-on service more than anything else which attracts people. Sadly, as clubs age, their capacity to undertake meaningful service shrinks. Few people are motivated to join Rotary by the prospect of shaking a tin outside Tesco. Why join Rotary if a club's service comprises nothing more than raising money for good causes? We need to raise money for polio eradication. We need to raise money for foundation. Our service projects need to be funded, but raising money should not be an end in itself. It should not be the core of our service, the reason for our existence. I think the experience of the past few months has been illuminating. It's true, sadly, that some clubs have closed. Some clubs are dormant, but other clubs have recruited new members. Attendance at a lot of district events, assemblies and district councils has in most instances greatly increased. Rotarians have adapted well to different ways. But what happens when the world returns to normal? What is certain is that the COVID-19 pandemic is a massively disruptive event. We cannot expect the post-COVID world to look the same as it did last year. We cannot expect the post-COVID Rotary world to look as it did last year. When we emerge finally from all this, and we think about the future, we need to be thinking about why we became a Rotarian and consider what will attract the next generation of Rotarians to join. Is my club attractive to that next generation? What do the answers to those questions lead me to do? Having asked those questions, some clubs will stick to their old ways, and that's their prerogative. If that's what their members want, there's nothing wrong with that. Some currently successful clubs will have no need to change. Some clubs will change, will innovate, will vary their meeting arrangements and style. But unless our club, your club, represents the future of Rotary in your community or changes in order to do so, then it needs to be starting a new club which does. A club which reflects the lifestyles of the next generation of potential Rotarians. Perhaps a club which meets informally, which is less demanding on members' time or pocket, which is more family friendly, which is focused on the kind of service which inspires people to join. And that's why I think my talk today is so appropriate to a meeting remembering Stanley Leverton, because it was he who persuaded RI that you can have more than one club in a community, that recognizes that if Rotary is going to grow, it must offer to potential members a range of different options, different ways of doing their Rotary. Unintentionally, we place obstacles in the way of some younger members joining our organization. We don't mean to, but we do. And so while clubs like mine want to remain the way we always have and hopefully keep bringing in new mature members, we need to create opportunities for potential younger members who find Rotary an attractive proposition, but not their local Rotary club. If starting a new club is the route to be followed, I know it won't be easy. Traditionally, Rotarians have found Rotarians, and for many of us, our circle of contacts among younger people has grown smaller. So how do we get started? I think we need to be looking at areas where our potential younger members are to be found. That might be in business parks, in large firms, in larger institutions such as hospitals. It might be among those working from home who miss the fellowship of the workplace. It might be among individuals committed to a particular cause. We need, throughout Great Britain and Ireland, to set ourselves the target of ensuring that there is a vibrant, active club in each of our significant communities. If yours is that club, then long may you prosper. If it isn't, I encourage you to help create it. As I say, if that is the route you follow, it won't be easy, but we owe it to the people of the world who benefit from our service to future-proof Rotary. The idea of finding 20 individuals to charter a new club has always been daunting, but the flexibilities we now have offer solutions. We ought to be able to find a nucleus of people who are interested in our movement, whom we can help and support to find a minimum of 8 to start a satellite and see it grow. It has been done. It can be done. Rotary is a gift to the world and a gift to its members. And by growing Rotary, by bringing in a new diverse generation of Rotarians, it is a gift you can give. And in giving, receive the gift of knowing that you are playing a small part in securing its future. A few minutes ago, I mentioned past RI President Ravi Ravindran. When I joined Rotary back in 1984, in what was then District 102, the district governor was a Rotarian called John Kenny. And when John became RI President in 2009, he chose as his theme, "The future of Rotary is in your hands." Never has that been truer than it is today. Thank you for inviting me to your special day. Thank you for listening. Stay well and good luck. Thank you.
Thank you very much, President Tom, for such a wide-ranging and illuminating talk. We would now like to give our members and visitors an opportunity to ask you a few questions, if that's all right.
Certainly.
Can I say, if you want to ask a question, can you please unmute yourself? You will then appear on a list on my at the top here, and I can call you. It was Brian Coleman. He asked if he could ask a question. So Brian, over to you, and then that would be Margaret Cooper, and then Brian Summers, Rima Tantash, and Salman Gray. So if you like, Brian, to ask your question, please.
Thank you very much, Clive. Tom, that was an interesting speech, but really you should have given it to the Rotarians of Lincolnshire or North Yorkshire or Somerset, because in London, that's not where Rotary is at. This club is an incredibly diverse club while still maintaining its traditions, and many of our other clubs in London have a high percentage of women Rotarians and a significant number of ethnic minorities. What disappoints me is that we don't always get the support from Rotary in Britain and Ireland. For example, I would like to close failing clubs. We all know which clubs in our district are failing, and they're a bad advert for Rotary. And we'd never send any potential new Rotarian to, there's about half a dozen clubs, we all know who they are, whom we wouldn't send a potential Rotarian to. As you will probably know, you may not know, we started a passport club in this district 2 weeks ago at Northwick Park with 14 Rotarians, the most diverse group of Rotarians I have ever met. And it's not all bad news. However, I'm District Governor nominee. I propose a set of reforms which I intend to bring in 2022 to my district executive the other week. You'd have thought I'd have been proposing the slaughter of the firstborn with the reaction that I got. How do we encourage reform?
Oh, you cover a whole range of different things. Can I pick up on your very first point about the diversity of your district? Yes, I think that's very fair comment. You just need to look at the people on this call, that it's a much more diverse group than you would see in many parts. I would, however, challenge you to say that that does not mean that everything in your garden is lovely. Quite on the contrary, if you look at your numbers, your numbers of Rotarians in your district is among the lowest in Great Britain and Ireland. I think the second smallest district in terms of numbers in Great Britain and Ireland. And considering your catchment area, I would have hoped that 11:30 would have had a much greater number. Yes, you have a more diverse membership, but I don't believe that you can say, therefore, everything is well. The second point is, you say, why can't Rotary Great Britain and Ireland close failing clubs? Well, actually, the only body which can close any club is Rotary International. And they will only do so if there's a reason for that. So that's the straight answer to that question. The third point you make relates to reform. I think it's immensely clear, must be immensely clear from what I've said, that I think that Rotary does need to change to thrive in the next decades. I think that I'm optimistic about Rotary because I think that there are a number of examples where Rotary is changing. And the reason why I emphasize new clubs so much is that I don't think that we need to squeeze out of Rotary clubs such as mine, which are old-fashioned traditional clubs, still retaining a reasonable number of members. But I do firmly believe that we need to create a wide range of different clubs, and that Rotary as a whole needs to have a different attitude. And that's why you say I should give this talk to Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. Well, I have given this talk to Yorkshire and Lincolnshire, and I'm going to give it to anybody who will listen, because I don't think it's an issue just for Yorkshire and Lincolnshire. I think it's a message for the whole of Great Britain and Ireland. We need to change, or we will die, and we don't need to.
Thank you, Tom. I'm now going to change the order slightly. I've just Judith Diamond is with us. Judith has to leave, but she would like a question. So apologies to those I said would come next. Judith, would you like to ask your question now, please?
Thank you very much, Clive. I really appreciate that. I have a big polio conference this afternoon in Brussels, which is being co-hosted by President Holger. But I really wanted to make comments and also to ask a question, Tom. And I agree with a lot of things you're saying, actually. And of course, we've been hearing these for the last 20 odd years. And it is difficult to change. But when I was District Governor in 2013, I chartered Maidenhead Bridge Rotary Club. At the time, it had 28 members. That is a really good model. And today, I was with them yesterday at our remembrance service, Lane Reeds, and they've now got 58 members. We've also rolled that out in the district. We've got the Marlow Bridge Club, and we're getting other clubs in a similar vein. So that's a real success story, and it really appeals. And it's a very different way of doing Rotary. One other thing I would just like to say, I think that keeping members, because we have this number of 1.2 million, which is static. So, but we get hundreds joining us, but we get hundreds leaving. So we're not retaining our membership. And I think to do that, you really have to excite them and engage them in interesting activities which relate to them. And I think there are a lot of opportunities for that. And I'd just like to mention two areas. I wondered actually, Tom, if you're aware that now young people in particular, they're very activity focused on a particular issue. And in America, there have been 3 new clubs started this year. One in Washington, DC, I think one up in Minnesota, I think the other might be California. And they are issue-based clubs on refugees, on modern slavery, and the one in Washington is on global development. They've had no problems in getting members. I just think that's a great way to go. And I'd just like to say, wearing my hat of the Dean of the Rotary Representative Network, which is Rotaries, we have 32 representatives to 22 UN agencies and others around the world. Our remit this year from the Rotary International Board, and Doug, I'm delighted to see Doug Wills here, one of your members, because he's one of our newest representatives to the Commonwealth in London. And our remit this year is to organise projects with clubs and districts, with the Commonwealth. So, and with the new environment focus, Tom, I don't know if you agree, that that is a great opportunity for engaging young people. And we're going to be looking at working with the Commonwealth, with clubs, on different projects, but particularly to do with the environment. Thank you.
Thanks, Judith. Yeah, I mean, you covered a lot of things. It's interesting you should mention Maidenhead Bridge, because obviously Maidenhead Bridge, and there's something about bridges, because there's Maidenhead Bridge, there's Marlow Bridge, and there's Forth Bridges, which are all the same type of club, which I firmly believe represent a very, very good part of Rotary's future. I think they, I've talked about Maidenhead Bridge with Lisa on a number of occasions, and you say that they now have about 58 members. I think it's correct to say that although they are an informal club attractive to young people, their age covers young people and people older than me. So it's very much a model for the future. Retention is the single biggest issue that we have. If you look at the history over the last few years, our membership has stayed roughly around 1.2 million worldwide. We keep bringing people in and we keep losing them. I think we lose them for two reasons. You, Judith, mentioned one of them. We don't necessarily engage people, we don't necessarily mentor people. And if they're not engaged, if they think they're joining a service club and they're going to be doing good in the community and doing good internationally and nationally, and that doesn't happen, they are going to walk away. I think the other problem is that sometimes they think we are not as we actually are, and when they join us, they find this isn't the kind of vibrant, active service organization I thought I was joining, and I think that's why we lose them. You mentioned cause-based clubs. I actually mentioned that in my talk, and I said if we might find them in large firms or institutions among people committed to a particular cause. Cause-based clubs are a very good way of securing Rotary's future. But I really want to pick up on your last point about the environment. And that is to totally agree with you and to half agree with you. You say our new commitment to the environment is a tremendous opportunity to engage younger people. And that I totally agree with. The half disagreement, and this is a little bit fun rather than to say I half disagree, but for too long, we ignored the environment. For too long, Rotary as an organization ignored the environment, I think, because in certain quarters, it was seen as political. And I think that that has done our organization an immense amount of harm. The fact that we were silent on one of the biggest issues facing our planet, I think was a disgrace. And I actually said that if we continued along that line, we were on our own irrelevant. So I am delighted that we have adopted the environment as the 7th area of focus. And I would want to encourage every club to think seriously about how they can build environmental issues into their service at home and overseas. Absolutely, it is something which will motivate young people. The converse is also true. Our silence on that, our inactivity on that will drive young people away. Thanks, Judith.
Thank you. Now, Margaret Cooper, and can I just say to the questioners, a lot of people quite unsurprisingly want to ask questions. Can you keep your questions, please, fairly concise and make it a question? That would be appreciated. Margaret Cooper.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you very much, Clive. I must confess, I didn't realize that I was unmuted. I wasn't going to ask any question, but since I'm here, I'm going to actually talk about, ask some questions. Here again, as soon as the president starts speaking, I said to myself, here we go again. But literally, the district governor nominee, Brian Coleman, has sort of asked a lot of things I wanted to ask. I think Rotary overflux itself, doesn't really appreciate all the good work it does. Barry Brassin, the RI President, 2017, I think he actually opened the way for Rotary to recruit members. That is about Rotaractors, literally giving them everything they want. So that is a route to, recruit members. And again, it's about our present district governor, Francis Uwaechi, literally has opened 7 ways to recruit members, to open new clubs. And an ex-RI president did the same thing and really opened the ways to open the doors to recruit members. But what do you think? The Zoom meeting, I think Rotary overflows itself. It is time for somebody to praise Rotary. Is there any praise you have to give Rotarians who have worked so hard to actually improve the image of Rotary, even membership-wise?
Yes, that is one of our fundamental problems. We do not say what we do. And when often people raise with me and say, what are you doing to promote Rotary and the good things we do? And I say, what are you doing to promote Rotary in your community? Because it's the understanding and knowledge of what Rotary is doing, what Rotary is achieving in local communities that will help raise its profile and attract new members. And there's not much that can be done nationally, except at exorbitant cost. And there's not much that can be achieved nationally unless there are good, interesting, attractive, vibrant clubs for people to join. But yes, absolutely. We need to praise Rotary, as I think I tried to do in my talk, and we need to articulate locally, whenever we can, the good things that Rotary does. But it's not their job, it's our job, it's your job.
Thank you. Can I now call on Brian Summers, please, to put your question?
Thank you, Clive. President Tom, I enjoyed your talk enormously, and I think you covered some very nice, interesting ground. I'd also like to support you in your reply to Brian Coleman. When I joined Rotary 40 years ago, in London District, we had 4,000 plus members. Today, we have 1,000 plus members. However, in talking about our club, we will support what you aim at. We have at least 30% female members. We have at least 30% members of colour. And what is interesting is the fact that we've always had 30% members of colour, even in the days when we had only men members. The answer to your problem of increasing membership and retaining membership is to have a very, very interesting programme. We've always had an interesting programme. Our membership is increasing. It's increasing because of our membership chairman, past District Governor Clive Amos. I would recommend you to advance Clive throughout the district. He would do wonders for membership. He is a great guy, and we need more Rotarians like him increasing and finding members. Thank you very much indeed.
Thanks, Brian. I don't think that was actually a question there, but if there was a question there, I'll say yes. I've known Clive for a number of years. He's a great guy. And yeah, I mean, when I talk about diversity, I talk about diversity of gender. I talk about diversity of ethnicity. I talk about diversity of age. And I also talk about diversity of background, because probably not true of your club, but certainly true of some clubs. They have been very exclusive organizations to join. And there are lots of good potential Rotarians who do not necessarily fit the pattern of the 1950s Rotarian. Let me put it that way.
Thank you, Tom. Rima Tantash from Petra, Rotary Club of Petra. Rima.
Hi, everyone. Allow me to thank Tom for a beautiful presentation, and I cannot agree more with what you said. I personally come from a district 2452, which is a very diversified district. We come from 9 countries, and each country has its own culture, traditions that we all have to adopt into our Rotary. I'm a proud Rotarian for 15 years now, and we still have the same problems that you mentioned in your presentations. The biggest problem we have is the retention of the members. As you said, we get new members, however, we lose, so we're stagnant at the number, the 1.2 number worldwide. And me personally, I think Rotary as an organization has done a lot to help us. And currently, especially in the previous COVID-19 incident, it had showed us how much flexible it is, because who would ever have thought we will be doing these Zoom meetings if you told somebody a year ago, they would have always create, we don't know technology, but now you see everybody is. So it's creating a new thing, which is the hybrid clubs that everybody is. And according to John Hugh, which is the secretary of the RI, he said that this could be a form of clubs that could really be still going on in Rotary. So we have a lot of options. We have a lot of forms of clubs. However, we're stuck. In fact, I personally think that's the flexibility of our members. Like now, you know, with the new regulation of the Rotary actors, they're not anymore a part of the club. They're a club by themselves. And we in our region, in our district, we're trying to accommodate them. We need to understand what they want, what they really need. We're always, we have so many problems and we have so many nice projects, but we have very little resources. So you know about the global grants and the new rules that has been done there too. So we are really, we want to be flexible. However, we're not being able because of the some rules that some people put in their clubs that are not Rotary. It's like club tradition, sort of, and the inability to accept the new generations with their new mindset. You know, their way of thinking is different. Their way of communication is different. They really, like a social media to them is a must, okay? And their way of doing projects is different than our projects. They have new projects. And currently, I agree with you with what you said also about the environment, because this is where everybody would like to do projects there. So we do lack something of understanding the new generation and the inability, inflexibility of the older ones. But yeah, look at us. Who of us have their kids involved in a Rotary Act club? Like, let us talk about us as a family, Rotarians. I like what you said, like, but when we're looking at attracting new members, and I think the 30, the Rotary actors, or the 40 less or 40 plus, what are we doing? Like my kids, let's talk about me, are not members in Rotary Actors. And I don't know about yours. Why aren't our kids Rotary Actors? What can we do to accept them?
Thank you.
I can't answer that. I mean, I don't have any kids, so I can't answer that from practical experience. But I don't know. But what I do know is that we have been very poor in converting Rotaractors into Rotarians. And I firmly believe that that is, for the reasons I outlined in my talk, that when Rotaractors become too old and under the old rules to remain Rotaractors, they are not necessarily wanting to join a club comprised of members of their parents' generation. And so I think that there are two issues there. One, we need to create Rotaract clubs and attract Rotaractors, but we also need to make sure that there is the opportunity for them to transition into Rotary when the time comes.
Thank you very much. We're going now to Salmon Ray, followed by Duchess Williams-Alonga, followed by Shagan Sequoia, and then Mac. So if you would like to put your point, Salmon.
Okay, thank you. Excellent presentation, Tom. My club is a 100-year-old club. We have 300 members. We fully agree with the points you made about membership, younger generation, and retention. And earlier speakers spoke about reform and programs. So what we are trying to do is to take a little bit higher level, to a high level, that is all the senior clubs who have reached 100 years, we aim to enhance a system of better communication between these clubs and enhancing better projects, interesting projects to attract new members and keep the members, retention of the members. So this is the initiative we are taking to bring all the senior clubs together to drive an initiative. Now, what do you think of that? And if you think it's a good idea, how you can help as a senior Rotarian?
I think it's a very good idea. I think that cooperation and collaboration between clubs is always beneficial. I think that too often, somebody earlier on talked about making ourselves known, and too often we dissipate the impact we make in terms of our public image by fragmenting our attempts to sell ourselves into the particular club. Whereas, I mean, my club is in a small market town in Suffolk, Woodbridge. There are two clubs in Woodbridge. And we're beginning to market ourselves as Rotary in Woodbridge. I regret that it's only beginning. It's what we should have been doing for some time. And so cooperation between clubs, sharing their resources, their expertise, and selling Rotary as an entity in which a club is a part is a very good idea. And it is something that I have been pushing with clubs whenever I've spoken to them. So yeah, I'm absolutely behind you.
Thank you. Duchess Williams-Alonga, would you like to put your question, please?
Yes, thank you very much, Past President Clive, and thank you, Tom, for a wonderful presentation. You know, you mentioned something in your presentation where you said Rotary is a gift. It's a gift to the world. I firmly believe this, simply because from a very incredible young age, I've been actively exposed to volunteering and community development work, working, you know, from an international community level. And my understanding of the world and that we live in and we all share, that became evident. But I must say, from the moment, it took me almost 5 years from the point of being proposed by Vasi to commit to Rotary. And that was purely because I had so many other commitments to my other charities, and I normally like to give 100%. And I must say, from the moment I joined the Rotary Club of London, my life changed immensely. Because with all my other charities, it was always giving, giving, giving. I see Rotary as a sabbatical. And immediately after I joined Rotary, I remember within weeks, I went to the Bournemouth conference and I met some remarkable people who are still in contact with me today. And I will not trade that in for the world. But what was really profound about all of that is my children. My children have always been actively involved with fundraising at an international level with me. But Rotary literally changed my youngest son's life immensely. when he saw, like, you know, the work that Rotary is doing at an international level, my son, it inspired him. He's in secondary school, and, you know, recently he just did a campaign. He's an athlete, and he normally runs and all that stuff. But my question to you is this: because my son is so inspired and wants to introduce his peers to the power of volunteering, what advice would you give to the younger people? I think they're called interactors, age 12 to 18, who are keen to support Rotary's motto of service above self. Service above self, yes. What advice would you give to encourage them along their journey?
I'm tempted to say advice would be listen to what you just said before you posed your question, because you said so much about what younger people can gain from Rotary, from Rotary service, whether it be in Rotary or Rotaract or Interact. It offers so many opportunities to people. We need to open their eyes to the fact that they can enrich their lives so much by being part of an organization such as ours, which engages fellowship and service and high ethical standards. I think you said it in the prelim to your question, Duchess. That's what we need to be saying, and encourage them wherever we can, make it easy wherever we can. Thank you. That's a great question.
Thank you. Shagan, would you like to unmute yourself and put your question, please?
As District Governor, thank you very much, Clive Evans. Good afternoon, Mr. President. Fantastic to hear your comments and your answers to many of the questions. My question is very simple, really. You touched on the young people coming into our clubs and not being able to engage with the existing members. And I have this question, which I've written in the chat box. It's the case that young people today do have lifestyles that are vastly different from the generation ahead of them. However, do we as an institution, and that's Rotary GB&I, maybe even Rotary International, do we as an institution have a comprehensive understanding of elements of this lifestyle? And are we prepared to reflect and prioritize these in all our efforts to engage with them? As we say in business, the customer is king. We have to listen to our potential members and present the goods in court, the goods they need, and be consistent and transparent in our efforts. And I remember, just as a comment to that question, John Hopkins, our past president, RIBI 2015-16, said something to me which really impressed me. And that was, we need to de-empower old ideas in our clubs. And we need to empower new ideas in our clubs. And he proposed something that made me laugh. And that is, when you hit the age of 60, though you remain a member of a club, you should no longer take part in potential initiatives to take the club forward, because your ideas are probably too old to engage with those who are in their 20s or 30s. Your comment, sir.
Well, I'm not going to really come out on John Hawking's point about giving up when you're 60. That would devastate Rotary in Great Britain and Ireland. In fact, devastate Rotary throughout the world. But I certainly do empathize with your first point. The problem I think that we've had in the past is that we've said, well, we need to attract younger members into our clubs. I wonder what they want and how can we give it to them? It's the wrong question. We need to sell to the younger people the benefits of Rotary. We need to explain to them, the sort of conversation I just had a moment ago with Duchess. We need to explain to them how they can benefit, how they can grow, how the untold benefits to themselves from being members of Rotary. And then say to them, you do Rotary your way. I don't know how to run a club for younger members. I don't think somebody in their 50s knows how to run a club for younger members. Why should we let them do it? Let them run their Rotary, do their Rotary the way they want to. The rules are actually quite few and simple. Within the scope of Rotary's rules, there is so many different ways in which you can run Rotary. We need to encourage them to join and say, do it your way. In the same way as my club, Satellite Club, operates in a way which some of the more traditional members of my club think is not Rotary. It's not Rotary as we know it, but it's Rotary as they know it. And that's the right way.
Thank you. And Mac?
Well, it's not so much a question, it's more of listening to what Tom had to say, and really appreciate the fact that he's mentioned all these things. I would say I'm a relatively new member, and all the points he mentioned in terms of actually getting to know people, getting to understand what Rotary is about, and seeing where I could be relevant, or where what was being put on the table is relevant to me and what my ideas are in terms of what I'm interested in and committed to in terms of charitable work, which at the moment, a lot of it seems to be more in the environment, which is what Tom mentioned as well. I'm not a spring chicken, but I do like to pride myself that I'm, I've got two young men, sons, and I try to keep up with them, and they keep me up to speed in terms of my age, making me a lot younger in terms of what I know is happening. Presently, we've got an age group of things between 18 to about 25 years old that are struggling to even get work. So the nature of work has changed, and I don't see Rotary being active in that area, and I think they should be. We've got a huge disturbances out in mainly Africa. That's what I'm interested in mainly is developing parts of Africa, the Commonwealth. So that again is triggered by work and poverty. And all I keep hearing is, I'm not saying it's not important, but all I keep hearing about is Bill Gates's charity and polio eradication, which I find is very, very important. But at the same time, I think that's not where the young people are. So I find that I'm a very outspoken person, so I will say it, but a lot of other people just sit on the wall and listen to what everyone else is saying. And quite frankly, after a while, they'll disappear. But I do understand what Rotary is about, and I do appreciate the fact it's not just the UK Rotary, we're all over the world. So if you find yourself in another part of the world, you could probably be more relevant in terms of helping to further the cause. Now,
thank you.
I just want to finish, Clive. So I do understand we do have a Rotary Act, so they're younger version, they're younger people. So it'd be nice for us, the older ones, the Rotarians, to find out what are they doing, what initiatives are they doing? Can we tap into them in terms of helping them? Because obviously, if that's what they're doing and that's what they want to achieve, maybe they'll understand that we're here to support and to to achieve the end result, and then there'll be a nice transition that when they leave Rotary Acts, they would want to join the mainstream Rotary. That's my call on that.
Thanks, Mac. Two things there. Yes, absolutely. Rotary and Rotary Acts should work together where they can and where they want to. There is a mentoring role for Rotary with Rotary Act. But what I really want to pick up on is your first point about the number of people whose livelihoods are in danger at the present moment. There are beginning to be efforts made under the sort of general heading of social enterprise. And Rotary, that's a tremendous opportunity for Rotary clubs to get involved in either supporting or creating community-based enterprise entities, which can support communities, which can support local economies, and which can help people whose livelihoods, as I say, are in danger following as a consequence of the pandemic. You should be able to find information about Rotary and social enterprise on the Rotary GB&I website. If you can't, contact Clive. Clive will contact me, and I'll give you a link, because that is a very, very good way in which clubs can make a big difference in their communities on an issue which is of current significance and which can demonstrate both our relevance to our local communities and our leadership of our local communities. And so thanks very much for raising that, Mac. I think it's hugely important.
Thank you. We've actually run out of time, but I'm going, with your agreement, President David, just to take 2 more questions, and it will be past President Anthony Newton and then yourself, President David. So please bear with us, everybody. Anthony Newton, please.
Thank you very much, Tom, for a very thought-provoking talk. My question really is a very simple one. What do you think is the essence of basic and effective and good leadership in Rotary today? And do those in power exhibit such good characteristics as is necessary for that?
I'm not going to answer the second point. Characteristics, I think I would always point to the key characteristics of Rotary itself. That takes me to our core values of fellowship, integrity, diversity, leadership, and service. I think that our leadership should demonstrate adherence to and the living of those core values. And that's what makes Rotary different. And I think that's more than anything else why Rotary will survive and will thrive and needs to survive and needs to thrive.
I wasn't talking.
I'm going to duck the question as to whether I demonstrate those characteristics.
Okay, thank you. And can I put the final question, President David, you wish to ask the final question?
Thank you very much, Clive. Tom, our club, founded when it was built on diversity, but it was built on diversity of occupation, of competition between prospective members for a place in the club. And the result of that diversity was rapid growth, and throughout the areas in which Rotary was active. And there was a prestige was related to the opportunity to select members, and prestige was required effectively to actually grow the club and become an effective lobbying institution. What should a Rotary Club now be looking to gain the prestige that means that people who join the club, status in their community is improved? Is it corporate social responsibility, or is it something else?
Prestige. Now, that's an interesting word. I think that probably means something different to the people of 2 generations after me than what it means to me. I think that what we need to be aspiring to is to make people want to be part of our organization and to be proud of being part of our organization. And that is that will be a consequence of what we do and what we achieve. And so we need to be sure that we are not only a membership organization, but a service organization, and a service organization which does great things, not just the eradication of polio, but, for example, an organization which makes a difference in local communities through things like social enterprise. And I think that if we are seen as leaders in our communities, then people will want part of our organization. They will see, perhaps in your term, prestige in being part of that organization. Can I just take a step back to a bit that you didn't ask, but it triggered a thought in my mind? Rotary was founded on the basis of classifications. fundamentally because of Rotary's beginning as a business boosting organization. And that was used, classification system was used as a means of competition, as you quite rightly say. And classification has recently, well, probably the last 20 years, fallen out of favor, slipped down the list of things that we are interested in this country. And I think that that's a mistake, because I think that one of the ways in which we can look at not only our membership in terms of numbers, but our membership in terms of our relevance to the community is to look at where our people come from. Do we have representatives of a wide range of different businesses, professions, activities, backgrounds? And if we find, when we conduct that sort of assessment, we find that no, there are great gaps, then perhaps we're starting to identify where we should be focusing our activities. And so I'm not sure that the old days of the competition for a classification place are ever going to come back. I'm not sure they should come back, but I think we can use classification as a means of carrying out an audit, if you like, of our relevance to our local communities. And it is our relevance to our local communities, as I say, that will build our prestige.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very, very much indeed, Tom, for answering such a wide range of questions so equitably and helpfully, and also hopefully. I'll now call upon our past District Governor, Clive Amos, to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, President. Thank you, President David. It is my great pleasure, honour and privilege, Tom, to propose this vote of thanks to you today. As you said, we've known each other for several years, and I've always been impressed by the way that you have conducted anything that I've been present at, and particularly, if I may say so, when you used to handle the RIBI annual business meeting, which was certainly something to be remarked upon. You will not have seen it, but I have seen, as I've been sitting here, all the comments that have been coming up on chat. There are so many people who have said how impressed they have been by what you have said to us, how much they have enjoyed the meeting. We've had a wonderful attendance today of over 70, one of our best attendances ever. Not surprising. We're delighted that you found the time and agreed to come and talk to us. I am sure that everybody in the club will want to express our grateful thanks to you, Tom, for the way that you've shown us the way forward for Rotary. We can now take this away, muse on it, and make sure we do something to bring your vision into reality. So can I invite my fellow Rotarians to thank you in the usual way? Thank you.
Thank you.
Would they unmute first? Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Clive, and thank you once again, President Tom. We just have a little bit of business to conclude the meeting with. Firstly, I will put out another call for those of you that have not yet voted in our ballot, not to have wasted our Honorary Secretary's time. Fill in something on your envelope and send it back to him so that we can actually respect the process. So that was the ballot. Now we have officers' reports. I would ask if there is any officer who has an urgent message to say so, or if the almoner has got a new message to say so. Otherwise, I will move on from officers' reports. Announce the next speaker. Now, I need to check. Is David Wolf on the call? I was told he might be.
I think he may have left.
Okay. The next week's talk is by David Wolf, a fellow of the Institute of Physics, on Chernobyl, what works and what doesn't in nuclear energy. hopefully not an explosive topic. Thank you, everybody. I now have the final toast. I hope you will have your vessel to hand, a glass even. And the toast is to Rotary and peace the world over. To Rotary and peace the world over. Thank you. And we close the meeting.